All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into one of the biggest rivalries in tech, macOS versus Windows. And we're not just here to rehash the same old arguments. We're going deeper.
Exactly. You've come to us with a question: which OS is right for you?
And we're going to help you figure that out. We've got a ton of articles, user reviews, even some industry reports to dig through. And let me tell you, there is some really interesting stuff in here. But before we get into the weeds, let's make sure we're all on the same page. Can you give us a quick, jargon-free explanation of what an operating system even is?
Sure. Think of an operating system like the brains behind your computer's operation. It's the software that lets you interact with the hardware, launch applications, basically lets you make your computer do what you want it to do.
So it's not just about the apps we see on the screen.
No, not at all. It's the invisible force that makes all those apps possible. Think of it like the stage manager of a play. It's working behind the scenes to make sure the actors, which are your apps, and the set, which is your hardware, and the script, which is your commands, all come together smoothly.
Okay, I love that analogy. So how does that stage manager differ between macOS and Windows?
Well, each one has its own style. macOS, which is developed by Apple, is known for its user-friendly interface and how seamlessly it integrates with other Apple devices.
Right. That whole Apple ecosystem. If you're all about iPhones and iPads, macOS just seems like a no-brainer.
Exactly. In fact, one of the articles we have describes it as feeling intuitively familiar for Apple users. It's like stepping into a familiar room where everything just makes sense.
But what about those of us who aren't glued to an iPhone 24/7? Is there something there for us too?
Absolutely. One thing that really stands out in the reviews is how much people love macOS's clean and visually appealing design. Even if you've never used an iPhone, it's hard to deny that Macs are just beautiful machines.
Okay, I'll admit those Retina displays are pretty tempting. But you know what they say, all that glitters.
Comes with a hefty price tag.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. Macs are generally more expensive than their Windows counterparts. One report we found said that, on average, a Mac can cost you about 30% more than a Windows PC with similar specs.
Wow, 30%. That's not insignificant. So we're talking about a premium product. But what are you really getting for that extra money? Is it just the brand name? Or is there more to it?
That is the million-dollar question. While build quality and the materials used are definitely factors, a lot of it comes down to what we've been talking about, that seamless user experience and the integration with Apple's ecosystem. Imagine you could start a task on your iPhone, walk over to your Mac, and just seamlessly pick up right where you left off. That's the power of that Apple ecosystem.
All right, I can see the appeal, even if it comes with a bit of a higher price tag. But what about the other side of the coin? Where does Windows fit into all of this?
Well, if macOS is all about that sleek integration, Windows is like the king of versatility.
Versatility. What does that look like in the real world?
Well, for starters, think about choice. When you go to buy a Windows PC, you're met with a ton of different options.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I've definitely felt that overwhelm browsing for new laptops.
Exactly. And that's because, unlike macOS, Windows isn't tied to a single manufacturer. You've got HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus. The list goes on, and they're all competing with each other, which means more options for you at every price point imaginable.
So whether you're a student on a budget or a professional who needs the best possible specs, Windows has got you covered.
Precisely. And it's not just about pre-built machines either. Remember that report we talked about building your own PC?
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of customization that Windows allows. And our sources say it's something that really appeals to tech enthusiasts and gamers.
This makes sense. You can handpick every component to build your dream machine. But wouldn't that take a decent amount of technical knowledge?
It can, yeah. But there are also a ton of resources out there to help you. Online forums, YouTube tutorials, you name it. And that actually speaks to a larger point about Windows. It has a massive and really passionate community.
So there's a whole network of people out there who know Windows inside and out, just ready to help if you get stuck.
Exactly. And that community support, it extends to software too. Because Windows has been the dominant PC operating system for so long, it has an absolutely unmatched library of software available.
You're talking about everything from the everyday productivity tools to creative software to, of course, all the latest games.
Exactly. And while macOS has gotten better at attracting developers, it still lags behind Windows in terms of just how much software is compatible with it. And this is especially true for the more specialized programs that are used in fields like architecture, engineering, and video game development. For example, one of our sources said that the industry standard software used for computer-aided design, or CAD, it's mostly designed for Windows.
So if you're working in a field that relies on specific software, Windows might be a safer bet just to make sure you can actually do your job.
It's a really practical thing to keep in mind, but, let's not paint an overly rosy picture here. Windows does have its downsides, too. Remember how we talked about macos being known for its security?
Yeah, that walled garden approach Apple takes.
Right. Well, Windows, because it has a more open ecosystem, it has historically been more vulnerable to viruses and malware. Although it is important to mention that Microsoft has been working really hard to improve its security in recent years.
That's good to hear because no one wants their computer held hostage by some rogue code.
Absolutely. And to be fair, both operating systems have their own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to accessibility, too. Windows has a long history of offering really robust accessibility features. But Apple has been catching up in recent years.
So it's not a clear victory for one side or the other on that front.
Not anymore. Both companies seem committed to making their platforms usable for everyone, which is great.
Okay, so we've got security, accessibility, software compatibility, all super important factors to think about. But let's be honest, it's 2024. We can't have a conversation about tech without talking about AI, right?
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting. Both macOS, with its Apple Intelligence-powered Siri, and Windows, with its Copilot, they're both bringing some serious AI capabilities to the table.
AI capabilities, huh? Sounds powerful. So are we just talking about glorified voice assistants here, or is there more to it?
Oh, it's definitely a lot more than just asking about the weather or setting alarms. Both Siri and Copilot are becoming really integrated into their operating systems. They can offer a whole new level of help, even anticipating your needs before you even realize you have them.
Anticipating needs. That sounds a little like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's getting there. For example, one article we saw talked about how Apple is using its Apple Intelligence to actually personalize Siri's responses. It does this by learning your usage patterns. So say you edit photos on your Mac every Sunday afternoon. Siri might start recommending photo editing workflows or even suggesting relevant files right when you need them.
Okay, that's pretty cool. It's like having a personal assistant who actually pays attention and learns your routine. What about Copilot? How is Microsoft approaching AI on their end?
Well, Microsoft is really trying to push the boundaries with what AI can do inside of an operating system. Copilot, which uses technology from OpenAI, it's not just about personalization. It's aiming to be a real creative partner.
Creative partner. So you're saying I could be writing a song and Copilot could jump in and start suggesting lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. We even read about musicians using it to brainstorm musical ideas or even compose whole sections of songs. And it's not just music either. Copilot can generate images, write different kinds of text. It can even help you write code.
Wow, that's amazing. It seems like we're on the edge of a whole new world of computing. But with all this talk about Siri and Copilot, we haven't even touched on gaming. And for a lot of people, that's a make or break factor when they're deciding on an OS.
Yeah, it's huge. And for serious gamers, there's really no competition. Windows wins hands down. The wider variety of hardware available for Windows, especially when you're talking about those high-end graphics cards made specifically for gaming, that gives Windows a big performance advantage.
And didn't you mention earlier that Windows also has a much larger library of games available?
That's right. Traditionally, game developers have really focused on Windows, so you're going to find a lot more games, particularly the ones that need a lot of power to run.
So if you're super into the latest games with crazy graphics, especially those really immersive VR games, it sounds like Windows is the way to go.
For now, at least, yeah. Although who knows what the future holds, right? Things change so fast in the gaming world.
You're absolutely right. This whole conversation just proves that the tech world never sits still. There's always something new just around the corner. So where does all of this leave us? We've explored macOS and Windows, from their basic features all the way to their AI-powered futures. What's the final verdict?
Well, ultimately, the best operating system for you boils down to your own needs, what you prioritize, and how you're actually going to use your computer. There's really no right answer for everyone.
It's about finding the OS that fits your own digital life, right?
Exactly. Think about your budget, what software you need to use, how much control you want to have, even how important the design and user experience are to you. All of that factors in.
And don't forget about those AI assistants. Maybe Siri's personalized approach is your thing, or maybe you're ready to dive into the creative possibilities of Copilot.
And you know what? It might not even be in either situation forever.
Really? What do you mean by that?
Well, one of the articles we read brought up a really interesting idea. As more of our work and entertainment moves to the cloud, the lines between these operating systems, they might start to blur.
So are you saying there might be a future where it doesn't really matter if you're on a Mac or a PC?
Imagine a world where all your files, your apps, even your personalized settings could follow you seamlessly across all your devices, no matter the operating system. That's the potential of cloud computing.
That's an exciting thought. A world without the whole Mac versus Windows debate. It almost seems too good to be true.
It might be a ways off, but it's definitely something to think about. But for now, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and maybe even inspired you to navigate the world of tech.
I think that's a great way to put it. So whether you end up with a sleek new MacBook or you go all out and build your ultimate Windows gaming rig, remember, the most important thing is that you find what works best for you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into macOS and Windows. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those great questions.